Welcome to On the Edge with April Mahoney Brains. Here, this is the spot where the conversation is pointed, the guests are sharp, and the responses are never dull. Welcome home, Brains. There's only one requirement to hang out on the edge, is that you open your big brain and close your small mind. Did you bring your thinking caps? It's time to put them on, because the conversation starts now. Let's get ready. Welcome to On the Edge with April Mahoney Brains. How are you today? You're at the spot, your favorite place on the planet. The place where the conversations are pointed, the guests are sharp, and the responses are never dull. One of my favorite places in the universe is Australia, and we're back down there today with a real estate mogul, Brigitte Stills. She's going to talk to us about her journey. Now, she's a woman of a particular age, so when she started her journey in real estate, she was a trailblazer, and she has made such accomplishments in every aspect: rental, sales, commercial, helping people invest. And now what she's going to do is give us some of that wisdom, but also some life wisdom and some encouragement as a woman in business. I'm so glad to have her here. How are you, Brigitte?
I'm wonderful. How are you today, April?
I am wonderful. I am wonderful. You're looking like brand new money. Yes, you are.
Thank you.
Tell my brains a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
How I show up, I'm a real estate. Well, I'm a real estate person. I have been all my life. I'm a woman of maturity. I started my career in 1975. So I would say some of my friends and people that I mix with have called me a mogul. They said, "You're a bit of a real
That's right.
estate mogul." And I
Mhm.
get people calling me up from various parts of, where I live in the suburbs and asking me questions continuously. So obviously, I'm out there and I've been known for what I do over many years.
Well, you are, again, like I said, a trailblazer and you are a mogul. You've also had experience working in the United States. You were telling me in New York as well.
I did a little bit when I used to travel over to New York, where I did some learnings and some seminars and things like that, and I had an opportunity to mix with a few people. Yeah, not a great deal. Most of my career has been spanned around, Sydney, New South Wales, and Australia.
But you have a feel and a taste and a texture for how we do business over here. You had me in awe because I know when I came to Australia, we took that beautiful boat ride down Sydney Harbor, and I asked you, I said, so what are those houses running for? How much are they going? You said, oh, anywhere between 15 and 30 million, and it just rolled off your tongue like it was nothing. What is the state of real estate in Australia right now? I know during the fires and the floods, people were having one heck of a time trying to find somewhere to even rent. What's it look like now?
Look, not much has changed. It's very, very difficult as far as the renting side goes. We've got great difficulties. We've had a burst of people immigrating to Australia, and that's sort of taken a lot of the edge of people finding rental accommodation. So that part is difficult for lots of people, and because of that, people have moved back home to their parents or friends, or they're sharing their co-housing. With regards to the sales, well, the sales are still booming. And if you were on a boat and you were going down Sydney Harbour, yeah, you would be paying that sort of money. I mean, if you're in a suburb like Potts Point and you pass Potts Point as you're going down, down throughout the heads in Sydney Harbour, I mean, their property's now around 50 million. There's one particular street where there's nothing under 50 million, and they're all harbour fronts. So yeah, that part is amazing, and we've got a lot of people buying from overseas, and that's bringing up the prices. But in the areas where I live, you can't really buy a house under 2 million. You can't
Mhm.
buy a unit, an apartment. For one bedroom, you would have to pay around about 700,000, a two up to anything up to 900,000, and a three 1.5 to about 3 million. So, the prices are going up, and Sydney is known as the most expensive city in all of Australia, and we're competing a little bit with New York.
It is absolutely. I live in San Diego, and so that's That's running right neck and neck. Well, I don't think we're as high as New York, but we're getting there. I mean, you have a one bedroom here and it's $3,000 a month, 3,000 US. That's not counting utilities. That is not counting, cable, and then your other necessities. You got to eat. I just don't understand where people are getting this kind of money. Again, are they collaborating? It just can't. The numbers are so inflated, and I tell people too that in my mind, money is an illusion. It's
Mm.
just like time. It has no more value than what you place on it. I mean, these houses have been there 50, 60, 70, 80 years. Some of them are historic, 100 years. And so now all of a sudden they're worth 50 million because you put in some hardwood floors or you put in a marble countertop. It's really hard for me to conceive how people get the money to sustain. Now, here in the United States, millennials have a different approach. They don't want the big house. They don't want the yard. They don't want the responsibility. They want these tiny houses. Do you have tiny houses there in Australia?
We have, the size of our houses are totally different to what you have in the States. I mean, our tiny house is about 3 bedrooms, right? Your
Mm,
tiny house is totally different. I mean, you can't find too many 2 bedroom houses. They just didn't build them. They built 3 bedroom houses with living rooms and kitchen and one bathroom, and that's classified as a tiny house. A big
wow.
house, a big house is 4 to 6 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, kitchen, living room, study, and maybe another room somewhere, a couple of sunrooms. That's classified as a reasonable sized house.
Now, do you get yard with that? Because,
Yeah, yes, you get
space.
yard. Yeah, yard's very, very important. And a lot of people want yard because A, they've got kids or they've got pets, so they want that sort of thing. But what you're finding at the moment is that a lot of people are having to downsize. 2 reasons. A, they can no longer sustain the affordability of keeping a home. As you say, the rates for taxes, all of those things are now amounting up. Interest rates, they can't sustain that as well. So they're downsizing. So a lot of people are moving out of Sydney and out of, suburbs like Sydney, and they're moving to the country or they're moving interstate to more affordable housing. They just can't do it anymore. And the older people are getting, the more they're now downsizing, and they're downsizing into retirement living or apartments.
Yeah. We had a big kerfuffle here. A lot of people left and sold their $2, $3 million homes here in California. And they said, I'm going to move to Florida. Florida's a great place. The taxes are great there. I can move in a retirement community, yada, yada, yada. And then the hurricane came through.
Yeah.
And how are you going to rebuild at 70 years old? The insurance companies are leaving. They're abandoning us. In California, we have the wildfires. We
Yeah.
have the flooding. It's just a difficult time for everyone. And again, from what you're saying, it's globally. It's not just here. So what strategies do you say that we should put in place? I don't care where we are in the world. What is a good foundation for trying to find a home? Is it, a lot of people now are renting. They're saying, I don't even want the responsibility of home ownership, or another thing, investment properties.
Mm.
We have rent control here. The government is going to say how much you can charge people for rent. I get that. But along that same line, inflation, property improvements, how do people get a foothold?
It's very, very difficult now. It's becoming increasingly difficult for investors to sustain having an investment property. With the rules and the regulations, yeah, we have rent control to a degree here as well, and we've had more so since COVID. COVID's made a big difference to the way we live, the way we invest, what we buy in regards to our salaries, our wages, the way we live. Lots of people have said, oh, we're out of COVID and this, that, and the other, but we're not really. We're still very much getting over COVID. Because of the rents being as high as they are, people a lot of people have moved in with their parents. The younger generation have moved back in with their mums and dads or their uncles and aunts or their grandparents. The mums and dads have, in a lot of cases, have given their kids money. They call it the bank of mum and dad, so they can go and buy something, and have set them up. Look, we did that with one of our boys. He wanted to buy something, and there was no way he was going to get into the market, the sales market. So we helped him out. And a lot of people are doing that. Otherwise, you can't do that. With regards to the investors were cluey some years ago, going back about 10 years, when they went out and they bought properties, and they bought properties that they could renovate, and then they went and sold them, or they kept leasing them out, and then they slowly offloaded them because the value wasn't there for them anymore. The rent income wasn't there to sustain a rental property in some of the suburbs. So that hit the rental market high, quite high. As it stands at the moment, because we're having so many changes with regards to our regulations here in New South Wales, in Sydney going forward, investors are sitting back and now having a look at, is this really worthwhile for me to keep my property? What income am I going to achieve? What is the end result for me? The capital gains is probably the only reason that you would keep a property, but how long can you keep it?
Well, capital
Subsequent,
gains here is a big tax liability for inheritance. So people
yeah,
inherit their parents' properties, and the capital gains that they pay on it is
huge.
astronomical. But you also said something, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but I wanted to get back to this before we lost it. COVID. We're never going to go back to the way that it was. Once there's been a threshold set, that is going to be the standard. That's going to be
Mm.
the benchmark. There's no going back. I don't ever see anybody renting a property for $1,800. I mean, for $1,800 a month when they can get 3,000. Moving back in, my daughter didn't move out till she was 28. We purchased a place again to help her, but I just got my tax bill, and I'm like, and then we have this thing, homeowners association. If you don't pay the homeowners association, they put a lien on your property. So the price of the taxes has increased the monthly mortgage. Give us some strategies on, and I don't know if you do this so much of the finance, but I was kind of looking at that. I'm going to start paying a little extra on that principal to try to bring that down. And the interest rates there. Tell us about the interest rates there in Australia. They work a little bit differently than they do here in the United States.
Look, I can't talk too much about it, but I can tell you that the interest rates have come down a little bit. They're around about 5 or 6%.
Mm.
Okay, but that's still not helping people. The interest rate of 5 or 6% is still not helping people. And I always have this idea about, if you're going to go and get a loan, you don't go directly to the bank, you go to a mortgage broker. And
Mm.
I highly recommend mortgage brokers, because with a mortgage broker, you've got the benefits of choosing who you want to have your finance with, and you have and you pick a provider that will say, well, if you pay extra, this is how it's going to minimize your the balance of your account, the balance of what you owe your mortgage. Subsequently, having someone like that you can keep in touch with continuously is much more helpful than going directly to a bank. And they're becoming increasingly important, mortgage brokers. And obviously, they're going to find the best deal for you. But they keep talking about bringing interest rates down. This year, we're supposed to have had another cut, but it's around about 5 or 6% as it stands at the moment.
Yeah, we're about 7% here
Yeah,
in
you're
the
still
United
high.
States, and we
Yeah.
are very high. Getting the down payment, we have benefits where the military can do essentially a guarantee. So VA,
Mhm.
no money down, but you still have to qualify. You still have to have a certain amount. We have this thing called PMI insurance to make sure that you're going to excuse it. It's just a lot. And if you don't have a foothold uh, in it right now, especially in California or maybe in Sydney, I don't see how you're going to get a leg up. But it was funny when you said a tiny home, you considered it a two-bedroom, one bath. No, a tiny home is almost a trailer. That is yes, they are converting these mobile trailers that they have tricked out inside, where they're a little kitchen area, a little seating area, there's a bathroom area, they hook it up to a solar panel, they hook it up to a water pump. These things are amazing. Google them. They are amazing. And that's on my wish list. I would love to have a plot of land where people could just put these tiny homes. Do you have a problem, excessive problem there in Sydney with the unsheltered and the homeless?
We do, and and once again, I'll say, as due to COVID, that has rapidly expanded. We have people actually sleeping on train stations, sleeping just outside when the train's zooming past. These homeless people are sleeping there. You walk down the streets of Sydney on a weekend, like a Saturday and a Sunday, and you'll see them all sleeping, outside shops, outside stores. It's quite devastating, and there are parks where they're all sleeping in, and that's been prolific since COVID. It hasn't changed, but bear in mind that some of these homeless have been provided with accommodation. I've spoken to quite a few people that work for organisations where they're trying to help the homeless, and some of these people just don't want the help. And I don't know how they survive because, in Australia, you get a pension. It's like, I think you get, I don't know what it's called in the States, but you get support from the government. But you've got to have a registered address, right? And if you don't have a registered address, where does the money go? Subsequently, these people don't have one. They're sleeping in the streets. And somebody will go past and they'll throw them some money or they'll give them some food. Some of them will have a pet. I've got this weakness for animals. And if somebody's sitting there or they've got a dog, I'll give them $10 and say that's for the dog. You know, I've got, but the dog usually looks heaps better than what they do.
Right.
It's
And but what
sad.
happens is they become so desocialized when they live out on the street. I mean, it takes a certain skill set to live on the street. Just think, you've got to get water every day. You've got to
Yeah.
use the bathroom. You've got to wash up. Little situation that happened to me, really quick story. I told my husband, I said, oh, I want to do this and I want to do that. And he goes, you know what, April? He said, might I give you a suggestion? Why don't you just go somewhere and sit down? And I said, well, what? He doesn't talk to me like that. He's Mr. Magnificent. He says, you can go out, you've got a jacuzzi, you've got a $3,000 toilet, you've got a massage chair, you can have filet mignon, you have everything you want. He says, why do you continuously want more? Fast forward the story, first world problem, I go and get a facial. When I come out of the facial, there's this beautiful young woman sleeping there, and it was 107 degrees.
Mm.
She was laying there on the ground, no shoes or anything. Tears came down that freshly fixed face. I thought about what my husband said. It just like hit me. And I was like, wow. I went in my purse, Bridget, and I gave her every dime I had. I bet you it was 200-300 bucks. And she cried. She says, now I can take a shower. Now I can brush my teeth. Now I can, and just all that. And she says, and now I can go see my baby.
Her baby. Oh gosh.
It was humbling. It was very humbling to know that there are so many people out there that have to think about what they're going to do and how they're going to, again, like I said, get a drink of water from one day to the next. Or people say, well, they're drug addicts. Well, there's people out there that are sick. They have debilitating disease, autoimmune disease, cancer. So if they can get a street drug that is going to numb or dull their pain, alcohol that's going to numb or dull their pain versus sitting there and suffering, it's quick to judge. It's quick to
Mm.
judge, but it is huge to be able to pay forward and to be able to help these individuals. Getting back, you give them a place to stay. Okay, great. But are they going to be able to pay $3,000 a month? Absolutely
No,
not. So let's
no.
dial to a different direction. I want to ask you about being a leader in the industry. You were ahead of your time. How did you find yourself in the real estate space, and how was that being a woman in at that time and sometimes still a predominantly male dominated industry?
Look, I'm talking now 1975. In 1975, I was at university. I was studying psychology. I wanted to be a clinical psychologist. I always in my life, even from a very young age, I had this thing about, reaching out to people, helping people and everything like that. And I remember my father talking very early in my life about about people needing help. He was in the legal industry, and he was saying there are a lot of people out there need help and everything like that. And somewhere along the line, this psychology situation came in, and I ended up studying for it and went to university. And my father one day said to me, I'm not sure where this is going. You've done 3 years, you've got another 3 years to go or whatever. And it's becoming increasingly expensive. How about you think about another career? And I thought, no, I'm not going to change what I'm doing. So I decided that I needed to go and look for part-time work. And I tried a lot of companies, and then I came across this company that wanted somebody on the weekend as a rental clerk, no experience needed. So I got a job there with this company not that far away as a rental clerk. And basically what that entailed, I just took people to rental properties. They were a development company, a large development company. They owned something like 150 buildings,
Mm.
apartment buildings. And I used to take people out and I show them to them, and I love the communication and helping people find homes. And some was so, I don't know where they'd been or what they've done in the past, but some was so overwhelmed about moving into a new apartment that, to me it felt so wonderful that I was doing this job. So I did that. And then I did it for 6 weeks, and then one day I received this letter from our CEO and said, "Oh, you've leased so many apartments, like 49 in the month or whatever, and we want you to join our team." And the
Mm.
team meant that I was going to be full time, and I loved it. And I thought this is better than going to uni, so I deferred. Started at that company, progressed into becoming a manager, and then subsequently they offered me a job in sales because they were starting a sales force off, and I would be their sales team member, and I would sell apartments. And subsequently, I started doing that. I was the only woman again, with a director, and I did really, really well at it. And from there, I progressed to another company which I really wanted to work for, and I had to have 4 interviews for that job.
Mm.
And the general manager was, can I just say, hard-assed. He his attitude was, why aren't you at home looking after the kitchen, something along those lines, big attitude. Anyway, I ended up getting a job, and he said to me, you've got to make a sale within 3 months. If you don't make, 6 weeks, if you don't make a sale within 6 weeks, he said, I'm sorry, your trial's over.
Wow.
So you can imagine, I worked bloody hard. I worked really long hours. I worked hard more so than anybody else because I was the only woman in the company. I was surrounded by men everywhere. The only girl was our front receptionist, and there was me. And I ended up getting that exchange on this sales property, but it had some conditions attached to it. But at the end of the day, he accepted that. But that's how my journey started, and it was hard. It was difficult. I was working for one of the leaders in the industry. This was the most known company, had 13 other offices throughout Sydney. Was owned by internationals. It was the first company that introduced the auction system, an on-site auction. And me being as adventurous and being impatient and wanting to succeed, I wanted to work for that company. I had this vision, and I had this purpose that I was going to be good at what I was doing, and I had to work for somebody that was going to help me along my path.
Right.
And
Right.
and that was the company, and that's how I started.
Let me ask you a question because picking a realtor is like picking a doctor, in my opinion. You're selling to value. Your home is one of the most prized possessions. You're going to move your family there. You're going to raise your family there. You're going to invest. You're going to cultivate the soil. You're going to be a part of the community. How do you pick a realtor, or what are some suggestions that you have for picking a realtor that is really going to have your best interest at heart and not just the sale?
Look, I get asked this all the time. And I always say to people when they ask me, you pick out 3 companies that you think are going to suit you and your property. Then you go and find some, when you phone them up, you get to speak to someone, make an appointment, get them to come and speak with you and sit down and talk to you. You know what I always say? I say you go by your gut feel. If your gut feel tells you this is the right person, this is the right connections, this is the right communication skills, they understand me, they want to help me, and they're listening to me. You know, if they're not listening to you, then they are not the right person because it's a big deal selling your home. I mean, you may have lived in that home for 30 odd years, and here all of a sudden you're selling part of your life. And
Right?
you've got to have the right person that's going to do that job for you. You've got to have the right person that you're going to phone up. They're going to talk to you. They're going to give you the feeling. They're going to give you the feedback. They're going to make you feel good. They're going to make you feel that you have made the right decision.
Right. Okay. That's good. So you go intuitively with your gut and referrals. I always like to see how you treat other people. That's an
Exactly.
indicator on how you might treat me. You've also written two books or had experiences with two books. Tell us a little bit about your writing.
Look, this happened by sheer accident. I actually spoke to Gail Watson from Women Speakers Association, and she introduced me to Voices of the 21st Century, the first book, and she sort of said to me, what have you done in the past? What's your history? What's been your journey? And I spoke to her where I started in real estate, and that's how it came about. And she said, how about contributing a chapter of your experience in one of our books? And that's how it sort of started for me. But the funny thing about it is, I'd never ever spoken about my journey. It was something like it wasn't embarrassment, but it was something like I couldn't associate with it anymore. It's like it's past, it's done. I don't want to talk about it. And doing it almost brought tears to my eyes because it was such a scary thing. And I think to myself now, God, how did you do that? But yeah, and so that's what had happened. And subsequently, the first book was about getting into real estate. The second book was about my journey in property management, which is, another experience. So yeah, that's how it happened. But actually putting pen to paper and talking about your life's journey is something totally different than actually sitting here and talking about it.
Oh, it is because you have so many memories. And again, it's very cathartic, but it's also very inspiring for other young women that are ready to take this on. I know here, I talk to a lot of women that are looking to be investors. They want to be investors in property. They're co-oping, they're putting their monies together because, again, that's, most economical. That's how they're going to be able to qualify. But what would you say to a young person, male or female, that's ready to get into real estate in this challenging market? What would you say to them to encourage them?
Look, I would say to them, if this is really your path and this is your journey, try it out. Try it out first and find out if this is the right journey for you because you've got to be successful in real estate, you've got to be knowledgeable. You've got to have an understanding of people. You've got to be able to communicate. You've got to be a good listener and you've really got to put in the hours. And a lot of people don't want to put in the hours. I mean, the hours it's not an 8 hour job. You don't start at 9 and finish at 5. You might start at 8 and you might still be working at 9, 10 o'clock. You might be working all day Saturday, and I used to work part Sunday. So, it's a big deal. But you can make a lot of money out of it if you really, really work hard at it and you have the right attitude. You've got to be patient, you've got to be tolerant, and you've got to understand people. You've got to have communication skills. You've got to be able to communicate with just about anyone because people out there are a lot of arrogant people that are selling real estate at the moment. They're not doing too well, but they're still selling it. But it's a great journey. I recommend it. I highly recommend it. And I get a lot of calls, and I have over the period of time where parents have said, "Oh, look, I want to get my daughter into real estate. Where should she start?" And I always say, start at the bottom. Go and work in property management. Go and find out what that property management's all about and get the expertise. There's nothing better than having a salesperson that goes around and says, "Oh, the walls have been painted. We've got new electrical wiring here. We've got a new stove here. We've got new countertops here. We've put in a new laundry, new floor coverings. They've done this and that and the other." And those skills are actually taught in property management. When you go around and do your inspections of the property and you write your reports for the investor owner, you know what's happened to that property and you've been associated over the period of time that you've had it. And that's a great start for anyone in real estate because you pick up so many skills. You're better than the rest.
And you can also look at the flaws. My husband loves
Yeah.
to watch the shows. Oh, there's mold there, or the floor is warped, or this, that, and the other. I mean, you can provide that information. And if you're honest and you have transparency, you will have a client for life. I have
Yeah.
a friend of mine that I turn her on to people all the time, and she's very generous to me. She says, "Hey, thank you for the referral." But when they sell their property, buy another one, she gives me on the referral for that. So, there's opportunities all kinds of ways, but I like that property management. That's really good. And then you have a good relationship with the owner, and you have a relationship with the tenant, the person that's going to move in there.
And the tenants become buyers, right? They become buyers, or or they become sellers. And you'd be amazed at the number of people that rent actually own a property somewhere, and for some reason they're renting that out because it's more economical for them to get some money on that property to pay the mortgage and to lease in another suburb, which might be cheaper for them. So
Right.
there's funny things that are going on, and you never know who the person you're talking to. You never know their connections.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Tell us a little bit, talking about connections, your radio show.
Yes, I do. Look, I have been doing that for 8 years off and on, and I talk real estate. It's a 30-minute program. It's here located on the North Shore where I live, and it's listeners phone in about and ask me questions about the state of the market, or a lot of people, should I sell, should I buy, or the majority have a lot of property management questions, issues with tenants not being able to collect the rent, or can I raise the rent? Or how do I get rid of my tenant? Why won't my tenant move out? Stuff like that. So it's quite diverse. We cover a lot of aspects in the real estate industry, but the majority of them are usually problematic. But at the moment, they're more focused on, if I buy an investment property, where should I buy? Or where is the best place for me to make some money in real
Exactly.
estate?
Tell us the name of the radio show.
It's Northside Radio. Yeah. Northern Beaches Radio.
Northern Beaches Radio. If you're there in
Yes.
Australia, tune in. Maybe we can get it, through podcasts, but it's definitely information. No matter where you are, you are going to have to tweak it based upon the interest rate, your location, and what the market looks like there. But the basis of what it is and the basics are going to be synergetic. They're going to be the same. How, what, when, where, why, and what for. Let's ask you some fun questions, Bridget. If you could do anything else in the world, real estate aside, what would have been your career of choice?
That's a hard question for me to answer. Real estate's always been my big thing. But I think I would have liked to gone back maybe into psychology and have worked with people that are being distraught, that may have had psychological problems, maybe help people off the streets. That's I've always been in the faith, a great faith believer in people shouldn't live on the streets. There should be a reason to get them off the streets. There must be something that we all can do to help people off the streets. And I think if I had my time over again, it probably would be in that vicinity. I'd work probably in that category.
I tell people too what they think that sales is sleazy. Sales is psychology because you are selling to value people's wants, their emotions, their needs, their desires. So psychology, I could see that. I could see that being a good fit for you. If you were a flower in the garden, what flower would you be?
I'd be a rose. I'd
Oh,
be a rose. I love the way roses start off closed and then they just open up and they mature.
mm,
They become beautiful and they spread and they shine a light on you.
absolutely. If you were an appliance in the kitchen, what appliance would you be?
Probably a dishwasher. I love clean kitchens.
Yeah, I do. I think I would probably be the air fryer.
The air fryer?
Yeah, I because it's new, it's trendy. You use a little bit of grease, it keeps it crispy, fresh. Yeah, I'd be the
Yeah,
air fryer. If
yeah.
you could time travel, go back to the past, stay here in the present, project to the future, where would you land?
Where would I land? I was born in Germany
Mm.
and I would love to land back there again.
Have you been there to visit?
No, there's twice when it's been booked, there was illness that stopped me from going.
Mm.
Yeah, I think about it quite often.
No,
Mm,
there's still an opportunity. Still an
yes.
opportunity.
Mm.
If you could have a 25, like if you could have a conversation with a 25-year-old Brigitte Stills, what would you say to her?
A 25-year-old, never give up, never give up, never give up.
Never get about it. Well, that is absolutely wonderful. And in closing, Bridget, what do you want your legacy to be? How do you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered as somebody that has helped and has had a journey in real estate and has helped a lot of people. And I think that's probably right. Yeah, I'd say just I've been generous in my time. I've helped a lot of people, and I think that's what I'd like to be remembered as. She was a helper.
And you are. You're a wonderful soul. Thank you so much for your dedication, for your resilience, for your positivity, and for your information. Please tell my brains how to get in contact with you there in Sydney. Maybe tune into the radio station to get some great consulting information and advice.
The best way to contact me is through my Facebook page. You can contact me at Brigitte Stills Properties or through my website, www.stillsproperties.com.au. 38.
Well, I'm hoping that I come into some money. I'm not going to say the lottery. I'm going to come into some sort of money so that you can help me at least get a beautiful lakefront property somewhere. But I love it. I love Australia. I always tell people that I do believe that it is a portal to the next universe. I've had some amazing experiences when I went there, and there is a great energy, there's a great synchronicity there among the people. So I thank you and all of my followers there, Australia, New Zealand, and Tasmania. If you are looking to purchase some property, get some information, get some advice. If you're looking for a great speaker, if you're looking for a great book, Brigitte Stills is the woman for you. Go back and listen to other edgy conversations here on the edge. We have over 2,000 of movers and shakers and influencers. Thank you so much, Bridget, for being on the show with me. I really value you.
Thank you, April.
Bye, brains.